Hello, welcome to another episode of EKU Online's eCast series. EKU Online's mission is to change lives by providing access to affordable and high-quality degree programs in meaningful disciplines that positively impact our society. We thank you for joining us today. Today we are joined by Dr. Chad Foster, Associate Professor and Coordinator of the Homeland Security Program in the College of Justice and Safety at EKU. In these roles, he enjoys working with students who have interests in the Homeland Security and emergency management disciplines. Dr. Foster became a full-time faculty member in 2014, and after 8 years serving as a federal emergency management agency contractor with responsibilities for implementing various preparedness programs. We also have with us today Mikah Hughes, an instructional designer for the Instructional Design Center here at EKU. Before coming to EKU, Mikah was an instructional technologist for DePaul University. Mikah has a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology and an MS.Ed in Instructional Systems Technology. She's currently a doctoral candidate in the University of Kentucky's Educational Psychology program. Welcome, Dr. Foster and Mikah. Thank you guys so much for your time today on this finally 90-degree summer day we're having here. We sincerely appreciate you all being here with us. So let's jump right in. First off, congratulations are in order to you both. You all were the recipients of an International Blackboard Award in the category of exemplary course last year. If you could, just please tell us a little more about that. What was the course? What made this an award-winning course for Blackboard, and were you surprised by that?
I think it pretty much started with me bugging Dr. Foster, Chad, and being like, so do you want to submit your course? Because he's one of my faculty members that are always like pushing the boundary and getting students to do really collaborative things and innovative things and trying new technologies. So I pretty much roped him into it, and then he just willingly went along for the ride.
Yeah, and thankfully, because so I was pleasantly surprised for sure when we received the award, but I guess I should not have been, given Micah's involvement in the course and her always encouragement for us to do innovative things online. So yeah, thank you, Micah. The course itself, I'll just begin there. It's a disaster resilience class. It's an upper division course for our undergraduate degree program in Homeland Security. And it's also a requirement for our minor in disaster management. Those are two related but different credentials we have here at EKU. The course itself is focused on kind of how we achieve long-term disaster resilience, which is ever present today, how communities cope with disasters on the front end, and then as part of recovery. So that was what the course was all about. And I think really what, and Mike, I'd like to get your 2 cents on this. In terms of the awards, I think the reviewers were really looked at the organization and kind of the engagement pieces of the class that we worked on together. At least those were the 2 things I pulled out of that award. How about you, Micah?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So I think by nature, when we're designing the courses here at EKU and for the Homeland Security Program, we go by the quality matters. So like the base things that Blackboard exemplary courses ask for are already met because of that. So the things that I think this specific course then brought is those collaborative activities we had them doing. You could just see the clear engagement within the course. And then Dr. Foster is always very engaged and active in the course as well, which always helps whenever you're kind of putting things up for these kind of awards. So that definitely helped as well. Mm-hmm. And then I think just the nature of the course itself. So Homeland Security and then disaster resilience really is an interesting topic. So that didn't hurt either.
Congratulations to you both. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased having worked with both of you and knowing you both personally. I feel like I know you're doing great work and we know you're doing great work, but it's always nice to be recognized, I think, outside of our little biosphere for the work you all are doing. So congratulations for that. Moving specifically to your discipline, Dr. Foster, Homeland Security, what qualities make for a successful student in this completely online program?
Wow, great question. Yeah, and just even in general, for the most part, but being a successful online student, maybe I can think of some general attributes or qualities that are pretty common, I think. Of course, you have to be really organized and be able to plan ahead, right? So a lot of the work that online students do is on their own to meet certain deadlines. So you have to be really organized and disciplined in order to meet deadlines. And our online classes are 8 weeks in length, so there's not much time to play catch up if you fall behind. So those are some just general attributes. Of course, asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions. We're not face to face, so knowing when to reach out to the instructor and that sort of thing. That's a best practice. In terms of our program, I would throw out also really important skills that we promote among all of our classes, and that's critical thinking and critical reading. Those are really important skills that employers tell us they need of graduating students, and we try to embed them in all of our courses. And from a critical reading perspective, these courses cover a lot of ground in terms of reading. So being able to digest the information each week, understand the purpose, concepts, and how it relates to the next week's module and that sort of thing. So those are two kind of unique skills that we really promote as well for students to be successful, not only here at EKU, but when they graduate.
What technologies or pedagogical practices do you leverage, Dr. Foster, to enhance interactivities in these courses?
These days, there's so many amazing tools at our disposal. Almost it's a challenge to kind of keep up with latest innovations and then figure out how to integrate them into classes. And I know, Micah, it's one thing to identify, the platform or tool and then how to integrate it into the classroom. But we've been really successful with a number of different platforms. I'll just begin with maybe highlighting a few. One platform that we've used to kind of promote collaborative problem solving and teamwork is the use of the G Suite or Google Suite type of platform where students can get on a shared document or a slideshow, work together as a team on it. And that's one of the practices that we implemented in this disaster resilience class. We have another tool that allows students to do presentations called VoiceThread. And I think it's a great tool where they can get practice presenting information to others, okay? And some others I can touch on here as well. Micah, any others come to mind?
Those are probably the two biggest ones, because I think especially when you're talking about student presentations and a completely asynchronous delivery, it's tough. And we don't want the students to get like hung up on trying to do these recordings. So VoiceThreads really kind of helped fill that gap and provided us with a way to easily allow students to make those presentations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the disaster space, I will plug, the amount of online videos and access to online video sources has been just amazing. Now that whether it's on YouTube or other more credible channels, we're able to engage students using online videos and other online sources much more than we ever have in the past. And that's been a great way to, we mentioned engaging students. Another great way to engage students is through the use of videos and that sort of thing. And we try to integrate those throughout all of our courses now.
Dr. Foster, as you meet and advise students, what do you tell them about career choices or opportunities they might have with a degree in Homeland Security?
Yeah, excellent question, Sam. Hear that often, and oftentimes students will have either they'll be working somewhere in our online environment, they'll already be professionals, or they'll come to EKU with some ideas in mind. And what I tell them is kind of keep your eyes and ears open. The sky is the limit in terms of our degree program, just because it is so broad, and we focus so much on the skills that employers are looking for. And because of that, we see our alumni going into many different career pathways, be it in law enforcement in some capacity at the federal, state, or local level. A lot of students pursue careers in law enforcement. Some want to be an intelligence professional and work for a federal agency or contractor. Some go into the military services and want to serve the country that way. Others go into emergency management either on the public sector side or private sector side, really any career pathway that deals with protecting property, saving lives, and that sort of thing. In fact, just the other day, I wrote a web article that's available on our website about a graduate who's working at a zoo. And her responsibility is safety, security, and emergency management at a zoo. So really, the sky is the limit in terms of what students can use the degree for, if that makes any sense.
And I would add one thing, because I know that Dr. Foster and the rest of Homeland Security faculty members are not going to say it about themselves, but their background alone is phenomenal. And I think that the faculty and even the adjunct faculty's background just brings a lot that the students can really look forward to.
There's definitely a huge difference having our faculty be having practical experience in the field and bring that real world practical experience into the mix. I think that makes a huge difference.
I'm really proud of the faculty I work with here, the full-time faculty members, and then the part-time instructors who we call pracademics. Like you said, Sam, they are working professionals who are also teaching classes. So students have some exposure to different career pathways just by virtue of the instructors in the classes.
Mikah, as you work with faculty like Dr. Foster, what are some of the major points that you collaborate on?
So really, it always varies based on the faculty member, and Dr. Foster is one that always pushes me, and I like to say that he's my fun faculty member, because he comes at me with these ideas of like, what are we going to do in this class? And then he'll just I'm almost like a sounding board to him, and he really pushes me. So it's fun, because I like to call myself a translator very often. And it's like, we want to do this. Now, how can we translate that into the online environment without tripping up the students along the way? And so that's kind of the fun part of my job. And I always love it.
So as we looked at a couple of the courses you teach, Dr. Foster, we were struck by how super organized they are. They're very easy to navigate. They're intuitive. They're well laid out. I know we've spoken to this a little bit. Within that context or framework, can you tell our audience a little bit about your philosophy of teaching online?
Yeah, no, excellent question. And definitely not, it's a lot of trial and error for sure. But if I had to pinpoint really both on campus and online, two things I think are really important, especially from the student's perspective, is, and we already touched upon these, is the organization or layout of the course itself has to be very clear and logical. And it can't just be a bunch of topics that are just there each week. I think it's really important for students to be able to kind of using the scaffolding kind of analogy, kind of build on every module in the course has to build on what happened beforehand, almost like you're building a skyscraper from the ground up. And the flow the flow of the course has to be logical, just so the students really understand where they're coming from. So a practice that we as instructors use is kind of revisit where we've been in the course, where we're at, and where we're going, constantly trying to tie back to what we've done before. So in a nutshell, it's kind of the logic organization of course is so important, I would say. The second I already mentioned before are the engaging activities for the students. They have to be able to really engage the materials, enjoy it, and almost forget it's work. And there's ways to do it. We use popular motion pictures in some films that students really enjoy. And before they know it, they're actually working harder at those assignments and don't even know that they're working harder at those assignments. It's using online videos where they can really empathize with people and understand what's going on in a given circumstance. I mentioned the tools before. Right now, there's a proliferation of online mapping tools, and doing kind of geospatial analysis is an important skill for Homeland Security professionals. And now through FEMA and the CDC, they have these interactive mapping tools that allow students to do what we weren't able to do just a few years ago, and build those skill sets. And they really enjoy those activities, and they're learning a lot along the way. So I think the two key ingredients I'll throw out, Mike, and I'll turn it over to you, is the organization and the engaging activities there. Micah, what do you think?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I would say that the other thing that really helps is that any course you touch, it's not going to look the same the next delivery because Dr. Foster's constantly making those tweaks to make sure that it all goes seamlessly at the end of the day. So,
So piggybacking on that train of thought, Micah, as an instructional designer working with a faculty member, what goals do you strive for in the course to maximize faculty engagement and student success?
So pretty much Dr. Foster already hit on this is that scaffolding. So making sure that we're scaffolding any technologies that the students are using along with that course content and really making it a seamless process. So they're moving through, like one of the things I mentioned is VoiceThread that we use for those final presentations sometimes. And so the way that we would scaffold that in is in week one, we're asking the students just to do an introduction on there. So they're already getting their hands on the technology. So trying to make sure that, and then alignment's always the other big thing. And I'm pretty sure that the faculty members get annoyed with me whenever I'm talking about it, but just making sure those course objectives are linking to those weekly objectives or module objectives, and then those are hitting on the assignments so that everything's clear. There's no like smoke and mirrors. The students, when they walk in, they're knowing why they're doing a given assignment. And I think that relevancy really plays a key on usefulness down the line.
Mhm. Yeah, and I wouldn't, even though it may seem subtle what Mike is talking about, that is so important from the student's perspective that when they enter a course, there's at least some consistency in how it's overall set up and they don't get frustrated out the gate. They feel comfortable, they know where to begin at least, and know where to look. So I would just put a plug in for what she just said as well. Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, you've taught online for several years now, Dr. Foster. So just talk to us maybe a little bit about what's your favorite thing about, or what you like most about teaching online.
Yeah, yeah. And, teaching on campus, teaching online, with technologies these days, we're doing a little bit of both, actually. In fact, some online classes, I've been able to engage some students in some synchronous Zoom sessions to review for an exam or just talk through an assignment. So we're seeing a little bit of everything these days. But in terms of online classes, more as traditionally, what I really enjoy is the diversity of the students in the class. I just find it so interesting during, like Mike said, the week one introduction, online students just getting to know who they are. And they come from a variety of backgrounds. They're from different geographical locations across the country, a variety of different work experiences, ethnicities, you name it. And I think that diversity in the online environment is so powerful, and it's something I just enjoy. I enjoy meeting and getting to know the students in the online environment just for that reason. Does that make sense? Not to say it doesn't happen here on campus, but it is a really diverse group online. And when you talk about Homeland Security, when you talk about disaster resilience, the diversity is a true benefit because people. Everyone comes at these issues in a different way. They think about these issues differently. So the more variety of opinions and assumption, thoughts we have, the better we are at the end of the day, if that makes any sense. And one area in terms of disaster management, it really is a compilation of different disciplines, if you will. So when you have someone from the fire service or working for a local police department or EMS all working together in the class, it is truly amazing sometimes what they could do together.
I think it's interesting too. You all do such a good job of personalizing these courses, so you remove the stigma of that, having to raise your hand in class. You all are so accessible for any student. It's almost like a personal relationship that they get to form with you for that learning experience. Awesome. Switching gears a little bit, please tell us a little bit about your research passions, Dr. Foster.
Yeah, in terms of research, kind of follows suit in terms of what I teach. Of course, there's something called the science of teaching and learning. So we're always researching how we teach. So there's one kind of passion that I have from a substantive perspective. I teach many of the courses relating to disaster management or disaster studies and how communities cope with disasters, how they mitigate, prepare, respond, and recover. So I keep abreast of kind of evolving traditions, doctrine as it relates to disaster management. And then my other area that I teach in is leadership and ethics. We have a capstone class that focuses on various leadership styles with emphasis on ethical leadership, kind of doing the right thing for students who enter the workplace, a novel idea, but doing the right thing before they leave us here at EKU. So I'm really passionate about all those topics.
Mikah, same question for you. Just tell us a little bit about your research passions as far as being an instructional designer and now also a doctoral candidate.
So no huge surprise. My main research really focuses around faculty and student motivations in online learning, self-efficacy, self-regulation, and some other factors that kind of go along with that. So pretty much right in line with, online course delivery and the teaching and learning aspect that Dr. Foster mentioned as well.
Mm-hmm.
Easiest question we'll ask all day, or maybe not. Just please share with us, if you could, with our audience a little bit about your all's personal interest. What is it you like to do in your spare time, if that sort of thing exists for the two of you?
Go for it, Mikah.
So my most recent pastime with my children, they've roped me into building a dynasty in Minecraft. So we play a lot of video games with the kids, but I'm also trying to cultivate a green thumb. So I like to spend some time in the garden as well, and then reading a lot. So
Yeah, and I would, similar in terms of family obligations. I'm also passionate outside of those sorts of things. I mentioned using popular motion pictures or films in classes. So it gives me a really great excuse to watch a lot of movies. So I like to do that. And it doesn't make me feel guilty because I'm actually trying to think of how to integrate some of them in the classroom. But outside of that, I would just put a plug in for Kentucky in general. There's some amazing state parks and outdoor recreational areas here. I'm constantly trying to get students to go visit them, the state parks, the national forests. We have 2 racing tracks. There's so many we have Civil War battlefields here in Kentucky. There are so many great attractions, historical places, so many great places here in Kentucky to spend time just during the weekends or in the summer, that sort of thing. So I enjoy doing that as well. So
Natural Bridge is so pretty. I always love going there.
It really is. It's an amazing spot. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners? Anything we haven't touched on today or that comes to mind for either one of you?
I'll just say for anyone who has any questions about the Homeland Security degree program or anything we've talked about today, feel free to follow up with me. My email is chad.foster@eku.edu. And I'd love to be able to answer questions.
And the only thing I could add is if you want to have faculty members that really care about your education, then Homeland Security is definitely where it's at.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mikah.
Well, I really have enjoyed this. Once again, I haven't seen either one of you in a while, so it's a pleasure to see both of your unmasked faces. But thank you so much for your time, Dr. Foster and Mikah. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys as always, and looking forward to when we can get back to normal and get some work done in the studio. So good to see you both.
Thanks,
awesome,
Sam.
Sam.
Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.
Yeah.